All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're ready to do 6.4 today in our notes. This is going to be about the Canadian territories. What we're dealing with today is we're looking at this area of Canada, practically everything that's above the Arctic Circle, that's above the 60-degree north parallel. You can see that the line begins here. And basically, this is the southern border. Well, it is the southern border of the Yukon, of the Northwest Territories, and then of Nunavut. Uh, Now, right here is the only place where you have a province that's north of the 60 degrees, and that's going to be just a little bit of Quebec. And you can see just a little bit of Labrador right here. Everything else over here is the territory of Nunavut. Let me emphasize again, guys, that these three are territories. These are provinces. These three carry territory status in Canada. More than 40% of Canada's land is located in the territories. And you can look at the map and pretty well see that, can't you? More than 40%. So not quite half of Canada's land consists of these territories in the extreme north. The combined population of the territories is less than the population of PEI. So we learned about Prince Edward Island down here. We learned the other day that Prince Edward Island is actually the smallest of the Canadian provinces. Yet there are more people that live in PEI and Prince Edward Island than in all of the Canadian territories. Now, of course, one of the obvious reasons is climate. The climate in Prince Edward Island is so much more conducive to agriculture, and it's just an easier climate for people to live in than it is in the extreme northern portions of Canada. This is a place where we want to talk about the people groups of Canada. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. You've seen my face for the day. I'm going to shut this off so that you can see all of the screen. Here we go. So we want to talk about the native peoples of Canada. Do you remember the other day when I introduced Canada to you, we were talking about some of the similarities between the United States and Canada? One of the similarities was this, that Native Americans in the United States lived out west and to the north. The same thing is true in Canada. Native Americans live out west in Canada, and a lot of them to the extreme north. Eskimos and Indians are the two native people groups in Canada. Indians settled south of the Arctic Circle. So if you're looking up here at the screen right now, here's the Arctic Circle. So Indians pretty well have settled to the south in the territories. Eskimos then have settled north of the Arctic Circle. So again, here's the Arctic Circle. So Eskimos live in this part of Canada. Now, none of them live way up here in the extreme above the Arctic Circle, but there are a lot of Eskimos that live in this part of Canada. It's actually in this territory called Nunavut. We'll take a look at some pictures later in the lecture from that region. The modern Indian population in Canada exceeds 900,000, so almost a million Indians and a million Native Americans in these northern sections of Canada. The Canadian government has given the Indians large tracts of land as reserves. Again, that's something very similar to what happened here in the United States. And many of these Indians remain on these reserves. Unfortunately, Government subsidies, that a subsidy is when the government supplements or gives money to help people. Government subsidies and little opportunity for real work have been an encouragement for alcoholism among the Indian population in Canada. It's been a real problem. Some Indians have taken drastic steps and they've moved into Canadian cities. So they've left the territories, they've moved into the Canadian cities. But a lot of times this ends up uh, not being a good deal, not being a good move for them. One reason is because it's a shock to them when they realize that life in the city is nothing like the tribal culture that they grew up with. All right, trying to give you time just to get this typed in. As far as Eskimos are concerned, Canada's Eskimo population numbers over 50,000. Again, they are going to be living in the extreme northern parts of Canada. Most of the Eskimos live in northern military and mining settlements where they hold regular jobs. But a few of them continue to hunt and fish just like their ancestors did before them. Now, things have changed. They use modern weaponry now and equipment, rifles, you can see, instead of harpoons. Instead of using dog sleds now, a lot of them use snowmobiles. But still, they live off of whatever they can find for food. And of course, that's going to include fish, whale, or seal, something like that is what they're going to eat. All right, as far as the Canadian territories are concerned, there are three of them. The Yukon, if you're looking up here at the screen, it's to the left, to the west. It's to the east of Alaska, but in the western section of Canada. The Northwest Territories, here in the middle. And then finally, Nunavut. Of the three territories, Nunavut is the newest territory. It was actually part of the Northwest Territories at one time, and then it was sectioned off and dedicated for the Inuit people, which are mainly Eskimos, a place for them to live. All right. So the Yukon Territory is slightly larger in size than California. One of the major industries in the Yukon Territory is mining. You may recall that back in the 1890s, you may have read about the Klondike region and how there was a gold rush into this area. 1890s, the Klondike region. This is an area in the Yukon just east of Alaska. A lot of people went up to the Klondike area in the 1890s to search for gold. It's the same, it's kind of like the story of the 49ers in California, how that in 1849, lots and lots of people went to California trying to find their, trying to strike it rich. A lot of people that moved to California didn't strike it rich. The same thing happened with a lot of people that went to the Klondike region. There was a lot of gold that came out of the Klondike, but not everybody shared in that wealth. There's a neat story here about a young man who had tried to find gold in California, and then later on in life, he decided he would try this Klondike region. He went up there and he did not. Well, he didn't strike it rich in the Klondike either. But one of the things that he did do was he came in contact with dogs and learned use dogs in the Yukon Territory. And in time, he decided that he would write a novel about those dogs. And the name of the novel is Call of the Wild. And perhaps you're familiar with that novel. It's written by Jack London. Now, he was the young man who tried to find gold in California and then later in the Klondike region. So even though he didn't find gold in the Klondike, he did find a way to become famous anyway by writing a novel about dogs. This is Whitehorse. This is the capital of Yukon. All right. Well, the Alaska Highway, we need to talk about it right quick. Now, you say, well, we're talking about Canada, so why all of a sudden are we back to Alaska? Well, if you look at the map, you'll see that most of this highway is in Canada. In fact, it starts way down in British Columbia at Dawson Creek, and then it cuts across this southern section of the Yukon before it crosses over into Alaska. Sometimes the Alaska Highway is referred to as the Alcan, which would refer then to the Alaska-Canada Highway. This highway was built during World War II. And it was built so that supplies could reach airfields and reach military bases there in Alaska. And so with the United States and Canada being allies during World War II, they worked together to complete this highway. And now the highway is still in use. And look at this, they completed it in 8 months. Now, how long have they been working on I-45 out here? For a long time. But this road was completed in 8 months. And so that shows you how urgent the need was to restock airfields and the military bases there in Alaska during the Second World War. Here's a picture of the Alaska-Canada Highway. Isn't it beautiful? Again, I mean, you see things like this, you see places like this, and you think, okay, I certainly would love to visit that. Another picture, the Alaska Highway. And then one in the wintertime. This is actually you can see the plow on the front of this vehicle clearing the road so that traffic can move. All right, so the Northwest Territories is located here. I want you to notice the McKenzie Mountains and then notice the McKenzie River. This river is the longest river in North America, longer even than the Missouri River. We learned that the Missouri is the longest river in the United States. Not the biggest. The biggest is the Mississippi as far as volume, as far as discharge. But as far as length in North America, this is it, the McKenzie River. And notice it flows northward and it empties into the Arctic Ocean. Well, anyway, Northwest Territories covers 1/3 of Canada, but still there are less than 50,000 people that live in this territory. And as you might imagine, a great deal of them live in the southern section of the territory. The McKenzie River, we've already mentioned it, is one of the longest river systems in North America. And as I just said, it empties into the Arctic Ocean. Give you just a second to get that typed in. All right. Hopefully you have that in. All right, we'll move on. Here's a picture of the Mackenzie River. Now, one of the things that we need to take note of here is the positioning of archipelagos in Canada. You'll notice that there's a large archipelago, which is a group of islands, a large group of islands here north of Canada in the Arctic Ocean. The notes here north of the continent is one of the Earth's largest archipelagos. Now, obviously, a lot of people don't live on them, but nevertheless, it is one of the world's largest archipelagos. Some of the islands lie within the Northwest Territories, others lie within Nunavut. So do this, follow this border right here. That is the border that separates the Northwest Territories from Nunavut. So if you follow the line, it goes like this, and then here's the archipelago. So notice part of these islands over here, this belongs to the Northwest Territory. The rest of these islands belong to Nunavut. Most of the islands are north of the Arctic Circle. Let me back up so you can see that. Here's the Arctic Circle again, right here. So most of the islands are north of that Arctic Circle. And with few exceptions, they're rocky, barren islands and they're uninhabited. Not a lot of people living up there. And as you can see here, they're covered with snow and ice year round. And I found a video that looks at the polar bears, just for a little bit about the polar bears that live on Baffin Island. Let me go back to the previous slide so you can see where Baffin Island is. It's located here. See, it's a big island, one of the largest islands in the world, actually. But here is, I think if I remember from the video, I want to say it was right in this area here that they made this short film about the polar bears in Baffin Island. Here we go.
We're just looking at the ice chart from yesterday, and we can. We're just looking at the ice chart that there is from yesterday, some leftover. We can obtain the information that there is some leftover ice around Cape Mercy. Very good area for polar bears.
There's a polar bear right on the top.
It's on a piece of ice that's bobbing. We are now in polar bear country.
Oh, here's a seal on the ice, just ahead of us. That's the food they are looking at.
Another polar bear, just about our 12 o'clock position. As we move deeper into the ice, we're getting amazing views of these polar bears, just one after the other. It's an incredible privilege to see polar bears in the wild. We have a tried and true technique using our ship to be very, very quiet as we move up onto the bears. And our main goal is to make sure that we do not disturb them. If they are interested in us, they come to us. But we want to make sure that we are visitors in their habitat and seeing them in their completely natural setting.
Where we find the ice bears. We saw bears because we saw ice. What we find is that the amount of ice is diminishing, leaving less habitat for the bears. If we didn't see ice, we wouldn't see bears.
All right. Pull the slides back up here. There we go. All right, Nunavut. You've heard me mention Nunavut. It's this territory here. It is a word that means our land. Nunavut consists of only 28 villages. So think about that. In all of this territory, there are only 28 villages, many of them really, really small. The most populous of these villages, or the most populous city, is the city of Iqaluit. It's located right here, you can see, in the southern section of Baffin Island. Latest population figures about 4,000. You can go on Google and you can Google the city and you can read, they have a city website and you can read about the activities that go on there. They do have indoor swimming facilities. Um, and let me go ahead and say this, they do have flights that go in and out of Iqaluit every day, several times a day, actually. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there are a lot of flights that go from Montreal into this city. Baffin Island is where Iqaluit is located. We've already mentioned Baffin Island. It is the fifth largest island in the world. All right. So we go on to the next slide then. So here's a picture of Iqaluit. Of course, this is not during the winter time, obviously. This would probably be during their summer months. And then this is the winter time in Iqaluit. And I found this video of a school teacher describing what life is like for the people that live in this city.
So my name is Sidaqia Larek. I am a grade 2 teacher in Cape Dorset, Nunavut. Cape Dorset is a small northern community on the southern tip of Baffin Island. We approximate about 1,500 people. Cape Dorset does have very distinctive seasons. It has a summer, a fall, a winter, and a spring, just as you would down south. But ours are different because our winters are long and cold, and during the darkest times of the months, we have about 5 to 6 hours of daylight, and then the rest is dark, pitch dark. And all year round, we have trucks and cars that drive around. In the wintertime, it's snowmobile, and in the summertime, it's ATV, so an all-terrain vehicle. The springs, that is when the sun starts coming out more and where you start getting 24-hour sunlight. There can be kids playing around outside all hours of the day. So they could be playing out at 9 in the morning or 9 in the evening, 1 in the afternoon, or 1 in the morning.
Hey, look, we are going up there.
A lot of the times we eat a lot of land food, which includes fish and seal and whatever is the fresh catch of that week or that month. We do seal hunting, whale hunting. Ice fishing is one of our most favorite things to do. And it's perfect in the spring because there's still the snow and ice, but it's warm enough to be out all day and all night. This year, spring came early, which means the ice broke up earlier, and therefore it affected our trails going out to our camps that we would normally go to for a couple more, 2 or 3 more extra weeks. We weren't able to stay out as long because the ice was breaking up earlier. Each year, our flow edge is getting closer and closer and closer, which means the ice is not forming as much as it used to. And the way the actual ice is forming, it breaks up. It doesn't just melt away anymore, it's actually breaking up into pieces before it melts away. So, the thickness of the ice definitely is being affected and how long it stays. That also means that when it forms in the winter, in late fall, early winter, it's forming a lot slower. So instead of being able to go out on the ice and go hunting and fishing and camping by end of October, we're starting to wait for December to be able to do those types of things.
All right. And I think that's it. Yes, that's it. I wanted to show you something else while we have a little time. Now, I know this unit's been about Canada, but I wanted to show you something. Get this closed. Well, there. Thought you might find this interesting. Since we're talking about places in the extreme north, I want to show you a place in Alaska, a couple of places actually. We got enough time to do this. So let me pull this up here. This is Google Earth. So we want to zoom in up here first. All right, so this is Barrow, Alaska. Let me pull in the places. Yeah, it's there. Okay. Where are we? Well, I'm missing it. Hang on a minute. I'm sorry. I should be able to go right to it. I have been doing it in the past. Let's do it this way. Here we go. This is the easier way to do it anyway. There we go. I wasn't far from it. But I thought y'all might find this interesting. So this is Barrow, Alaska, way to the north, right? So you can see a landing strip where people can come in, fly in. But I wanted to show you this if I can locate it. I know it's here somewhere. Is it out here? Ah, here it is. I found it. Watch this. That's right. Football field in Barrow, Alaska. So they actually play football here, guys. In the for them, they start their season much like we do here with the beginning of the school year, but they're playing in extremely cold temperatures. Can you imagine uh, playing in those type of temperatures with the winds coming off the Arctic Ocean? And so there is a program that I saw the other day on YouTube. I think it was actually put out by ESPN, where they go to these different small school towns and talk about the football program. And they were talking about the football program for the Barrow Whalers. That's what they are, Whalers. But I thought that was pretty interesting. So that's in the extreme north, huh? Let me show you one other thing about Alaska, and then we're going to quit. Right here, right here. These islands right here are called the Diomede Islands. This is the smaller Diomede, and then the larger Diomede Islands. Nobody lives on this one, and this one belongs, guess what? This big Diomede belongs to Russia over here. This one belongs to Alaska, so it belongs to the United States. So that's how close the United States and Russia is right there. So I can pull this up and move it out of the way, and you can do a little bit of a measurement, and you can see it's just a little over 2 miles. Do y'all see that up here? So just a little over 2 miles between those two islands. Let me show you something else. Right in here, let me close that. So right here, Yep, there's a fishing village right here. And the only way in and out of this village, if you've got to go long distances, is by helicopter. So this is the helicopter pad. They have a school, they have stores. But now, if you're looking for the mall, if you're looking for McDonald's or anything like that, you're not going to find it there. And of course, you can imagine that the people fish. Oh, there is one thing though. I forgot to mention this. I said helicopter. Believe it or not, you can come here in a plane certain times of the year. It gets so cold that it freezes. The shallow water freezes around this uh, uh, island, and so they're able to land planes in this region. Okay, guys. Well, enough of that. So tomorrow you're going to be taking a test over the stuff that you've learned about Alaska. I will be back tomorrow. That is the plan. I'll be back tomorrow. So if you have questions, I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask me before you take the test. I appreciate you cooperating with the substitute. Thank you for doing that. And Lord willing, I will see you tomorrow. Pray for me. I'll be traveling home today and look forward to seeing all of you tomorrow.